Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good night, or wherever you are watching from. Welcome to Apex Racing TV for the final race of the Apex Racing Academy Super Formula Lights. My name is Adam Thompson. Along with me is Ron Mons and, of course, Joshua Wilkie, our producer here today. And we are at Zandvoort, and we have a championship race here today, and that should be absolutely exciting, Ron. But before we do talk about the points and the team's championship and all that, I'm going to hand it over to you to talk about Circuit Zandvoort.
Alrighty, well, thank you very much, Adam. I'll tell you what, for the final track guide of this season, what a fantastic track that we're visiting to bring this season to a close. We've had some awesome tracks, and Zandvoort certainly one of them. Of course, just redone back in 2020. However, the main base layout has just been about the same since about 1999 when they redid the track quite a few years ago. It all starts off in turn number 1. Very challenging corner, a good overtaking opportunity for some drivers as well. Then hang into turn number 2. A pretty tough corner to try and get right, mainly setting yourself up for turn number 3, one of the best corners on this lap, that being Hogenholtz Bend, named after a famous track designer in Europe. And then we're going on to one of the first flat out blasts on this lap. However, you aren't going straight at all. You have to deal with the likes of turn 4, turn 5, and turn 6. Whole lot of undulation as well. Don't want to slam the wall because, as we just saw in Formula 1 this past weekend, not a whole lot of runoff area if you have a mistake heading through that section. Then you crest the hill and careen your way down into turn number 7. That gravel trap on the outside is very ominous there. Very fast corner on this racetrack and very easy to make a mistake if you get in there a little bit too wrong. Then you're heading into turn number 8. Fairly nondescript bend, but then you're bending your way into the braking zone of turn number 9. Really tricky to try and get it right without locking up a wheel. That corner has always been tough, and it'll certainly be tough in these Super Formula Lights race cars to round this season off. Turn number 10, the hairpin, a pretty good overtaking opportunity as well for these drivers. May see someone sneak a wheel down the inside. It's also really important to get a good exit coming out of that turn because you have one of the longest straightaways on this lap, the straight before the Hans Earth chicane in turn number 12 and 11, usually covered entirely in orange smoke whenever Formula 1 visits here, but it won't be that case here in iRacing today. But that corner still pretty tough. That chicane, we've seen plenty of drivers make a mistake there in real life and in the sim. I'm sure tonight is going to be no different. Then you're heading through the incredibly important turn number 13, the second to last corner on this racetrack, and then from corner exit you are flat out through the ARA line dike bend with a whole lot of banking, very emblematic of the driver who used to race in IndyCar and won 2 Indy 500s in 1990 and 1997, which brings a close to this lap around Zandvoort. It is a fun ride in all types of race cars. These Super Formula Lights are certainly no different, and what a fantastic track to bring this season to a close. But as much as the fun and tricky nature of Zandvoort is probably on these drivers' minds, what's on our minds is a driver championship fight. Adam, you want to take a look at that?
Yeah, let's take a look at the championship standings here. Starting with the pro class, you've got Leonard Schneibel currently on top with 670 points. George Sasnoff in second with 655. Nicholas Rasmussen with 650 points. And the last driver to have a possible chance at this championship here is Tobias Olsen with 636 points. Rounding out the top 5, Kevin Zemstra, 571 points. Of course, falling out of the top 5, you have Alex Pilbeam, Lee Aberdeen, Thomas Hedlund, Anton Tokabalokov, Ben Ford, Istan Dexy, Mats Jestrubakken, and Christian Glamsetter, all within that top 13. Of course, we'll get into the storylines here in just a little bit, but let's take a look at the AM class because we have some different out of this world news here, Ron, and I'll let you take it away here.
Alrighty, well, let's just take a look at the points situation. Mark Swan at the front. That is a pretty huge lead over his teammate Nojus Gedvelis. He was pretty set in stone in terms of winning that AM championship. Nojus Gedvelis, as I said, in P2, 559 points on the board compared to Mark Swan's 612. Yuri Grigorenko, the Russian driver for Dudarev Motorsports, in third. Yannick Pletcher in fourth, and Fabio Grassetto rounding out your top 5. And now we assumed heading into this race that was going to be game, set, match, essentially, when it comes to this AM championship. Mark Swan put on some very good drives, particularly last time out, where he actually won some of the races overall. He has been a force to be reckoned with in the closing stages of this season. All he had to do was show up tonight, and he hasn't. So Mark Swan, a no-show for this race in Zandvoort, which means it's wide open in that AM category between Nojus Gedvelis and Yuri Grigorenko. Those two going to be battling hard. Yannick Pletcher not really involved in that. He's going to have a fight of his own between himself and the Alcantech NHR driver of Fabio Grassetto in fifth. So that's how it's looking in the AM championship. We're definitely going to keep the viewers updated on that all throughout tonight's broadcast here on Apex Racing TV. The team championship, meanwhile, it has been pretty tense. We were thinking that it was game, set, match for Ice Cold Racing. However, midway through the season, they melted. They've dropped down to third. It's now Alcantech NHR by Brain Crow AI in the lead, 1,461 points on the board. It's about 80 points back to Dudarev Motorsports in second. Ice Cold Racing coming up the rear in third. Those teams really the only ones that have a hope and a prayer of winning the team's championship, but with the low participation that Ice Cold Racing has, it's really a two-horse race between Alcantech and Dudarev, and the same goes with that pro championship, with drivers from both of those teams representing and trying to get the job done in that pro class. Of course, 650 British pounds of Apex Racing Academy subscriptions up for grabs for both the drivers and teams who sneak away with good championship results this season. But looking at qualifying, which is now underway, Adam, some interesting results in this qualifying session already. Tobias Olsen, a driver who we pretty much had pinned as a championship favorite midway through the season, he's collapsed, and that 11th place qualifying run that he has right now is doing himself no favors.
No, it is not, as Leonard Schneibel currently top of the leaderboard, 123.690. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, we do have some storylines in the pro class of the ARA Super Formula Light. So right now, as it stands, if Leonard Schneibel wins both races, he'll become the first champion of the ARA Super Formula Lights. But here's the kicker. It all relies on how he finishes both races. Both races get points, of course. Both races, the top point score is going to be 70 points for each win. So that is something to consider. So if we break it down, basically where he has to finish second and third for George Snasnoff to have a crack at the title here at the ARA Super Formula Lights Championship race here. So, and for him, that would mean he would also have to win both races. So in order to get that championship grab, for Nicholas Rasmussen, he's in a really tough spot tonight. He needs to score. He has to win both races, and he has to rely on Leonard Schneibel not even finishing in the top 5 in order. And right now, he's getting his night off started right with a 123.5, goes to provisional pole as we are just now closing in on 4 minutes left here in qualifying. Now, the 4th place driver in the standings, Tobias Olsen, he just now finished in the 4th slot in qualifying. He does have another run coming. He is the farthest chance away from a championship battle. He basically has to rely on Nicholas Rasmussen, Leonard Schneibel, and George Snazimov to basically be outside of the top 5 to have a shot. And it's a very slim shot at best. But if they retire or somehow don't even make it in the top 10 tonight, he will have a championship, which would be astounding considering the many possibilities coming into today's race. So the way that it works, we got 2 races coming up here, a sprint and a feature. The sprint race, 25 minutes, the feature, 30 minutes long. We also want to note that Andre Duna had a qualifying ban, so they did not be able to qualify in the AM category. Right now, sitting first for the AMs is Fabio Grassetto, and Yuri Grigorenko in the 2nd spot for the AM category. Looking at Thomas Hedlund now, 6th fastest with a 123.8. He is looking to gain some time here, maybe get in front of Fabio Grassetto, at least the overall classification. And Ron, as I was talking through the points there, we have a lot to keep track of today in the Pro Championship.
Oh, we absolutely have to. We got to see what's going to happen with the Alcantech NHR teammates of Rasmussen and Schneibel. Both of them involved in the championship. Of course, the German of Schneibel in a much better position than the Dane of Rasmussen. But those two, I mean, they're currently P1 and P2 in this qualifying session right now, so they are still maybe going to have to battle between now and the end of not just the first race, but the second race that we have in store as well. But my mind really, at this point in this qualifying session, with about 3 minutes left, actually my apologies, only 2 minutes left to go in the qualifying session, it's really looking at Tobias Olsen because, you know, it's just been such a strange season. He's now down to 5th in this qualifying session as George Sazonov actually shoots his way up to 3rd, maybe with a little bit of help from his Dudarev Motorsports teammate of Tokbalatov. Actually, no, it was Sazonov giving the draft to his teammate as Rasmussen jumps up to the front there. Actually, no, my apologies. That was Kevin Zwemstra jumping up to 2nd, the Dutch driver moving his way up onto that front row. But getting back to the point that I was going to mention before these drivers start to set in some cookers of lap times, Olsen, let's just break down how his season has gone thus far, because we mentioned that at one point in time we saw him as a championship favorite. It all really started leaving the 3rd round of the season at Spa. We were like, okay, this guy, he's put together some pretty good races, won in Spa in convincing fashion. Then Sebring happened and he crashed out of both races, and then as a result of that, he had a qualifying ban for the 5th round of the season at the Hungaroring. He didn't serve it there. Instead, he picked up a race ban for the 6th round of the season at Mugello just 2 weeks ago. Then he finally came back to the series at Motegi, put on a pretty good drive to try and keep his championship hopes alive. However, coming into this 8th and final round of the season, I think that race ban just set him under. With only 30 seconds left to go in this qualifying session, looks like he's going to line up in 5th, unless some more drivers maybe try to improve. This is Tokbalatov about to cross the line. Did he get some help from his teammate of Sazonov to try and give him the draft? He did get the draft, however, he didn't improve his qualifying time, still remaining in 9th. But just this season has been packed with so many storylines from start to finish, Adam. It may only have been an 8-race season, but my God, have we had some storylines as Tokbalatov spins coming out of Hugenholtz. A lot of storylines throughout this season, and I think we're going to be wrapping some bows around some pretty interesting stories tonight.
Well, I think so as well. Of course, we've seen some accidents and some incidents happen. And when we are currently in the situation that we're in, the pressure is going to be on for a lot of these drivers. And the grid is going to start to form up. And we'll take a look at the first lineup of this 25-minute sprint race. 70 points to win here tonight in race number 1. On the pole, it's going to be the 171 from Alcantech NHRA by Brain Crow AI, Nicholas Rasmussen. On his outside, the 125 from Ice Cold Racing of Kevin Zemstra. Row 2, the championship leader, the 159 from Alcantech NHR by Brain Crow AI, Leonard Schneibel. And on his outside, battling for the championship, the Russian, the one in the 165 car, it's George Snasnoov. Row number 3, Tobias Olsen, who has an outside chance at a championship tonight in the 191 car for Ice Cold Racing. And on his outside, the 177 of Thomas Hedlund. Row 4, Fabio Grosseto in the 206 car. Alongside with him, the Russian in the 261 car from Dudarev Motorsports, Yuri Grigorenko. Row 5, on the inside, the 155 from Dudarev Motorsports, Anton Tokabolotov. And on his outside, the 267 from EDX Racing Esports, Najus Gedvelez. Row number 6, in the 228 car in the Alcantech NHR by Nyman, is Silas Craig Borlick. We got Pierre-Francois Palouse in 12th. Final row, Jeff Luce in the 213 car. And the final start of the 210 from Dynamo Esports, Andre Duna. So cars are starting to grit up here for the first 25-minute race. And then, of course, we'll have our 30-minute feature race after this. And this is a short run down into turn 1. So not a whole lot of time to get up to speed. You gotta be good off the lights, and you gotta make some moves happen early. This is a very tough track to pass. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We have the lights starting to come on here. 5 lights will turn on and 5 lights will go out, and away we go. Nicholas Rasmussen doesn't get a good start there with Kevin Zemstra pulling up alongside as now they go into turn number 1. Nicholas Rasmussen, he'll hold it around the outside, trying to maintain the spot. Kevin Zemstra has a car length out in front. Now they go through turn number 2. This is going to be very interesting. Everyone trying to go single file side by side further back with the Dudarev Motorsports of who was that? Oh, Tobias Olsen. Massive crash. Tobias Olsen involved. One of the championship contenders, George Snasnoov, as well involved. One car is upside down, and what massive carnage we have just witnessed here right away. Tobias Olsen is on. Go ahead.
Yeah, Tobias, sorry to step on your toes there, Adam. Tobias Olsen upside down, and that just about summarizes his season. He had a fantastic shot to win the championship, but with that flip, that is pretty much going to take him entirely out of contention. And that, I would say, even with an Ice Cold Racing car leading this field of Kevin Zemstra, that pretty much all but seals it in terms of Ice Cold Racing not even taking the team's championship this season. Heartbreaker for the Swedish driver, both of himself and his Ice Cold Racing teammate of Hedlund, who's been involved in that incident. And George Sazanoff, he came into this race with an outside shot, and it's all come to blows. And speaking of, that's a spinner coming out of the chicane. I believe that may be Gedvelis that was spinning. Actually, no, that's Craig Verlogic spinning. He's now down in 10th for the Alcantech NHR by Nyman Racing car. He's actually going to gain another position on Grigorenko. They're going to be side by side, hang through the banking to round this lap to a close. You can see some pretty significant damage to the side of Yuri Grigorenko's car. He got a big piece of that drama heading through turn number 3, Adam. I think we have a whole lot of replays to take a look at and a whole lot to unpack. Sazanoff in pit lane. That, I won't say it's entirely game set match for him not being able to win the championship, but his route to that championship is practically non-existent at this point.
They're coming through turn 2 and into turn 3. And this, of course, with the banking, Tobias Olsen got loose, spun it around, and then collected about 4 or 5 different cars. And there goes Tobias Olsen upside down. And that is going to wrap up for Tobias Olsen. He will no longer be in contention for the championship. No matter how he finishes, he will not be in the top 5 at all by the end of this. Again, looking from Fabio Grosseto's point of view of what actually happened here. And who was that? Was that Yuri Grigorenko who got loose into the banking? I think it was. And unfortunately, that ruined a lot of people's race here tonight. Now, the race is on for Nicholas Rasmussen. He sees an opportunity. This is the exact situation he wanted to find himself in, as we are taking a look at Najus Gedvelez, who is in contention for the AM championship as they go down the front straight.
Oh, you can see this pack battling heading into turn number 1. Gedvalus in the middle of that, currently running in 8th, trying to get a move done on Jeff Lutz, who's on his outside heading through turn number 1. Not close enough to get that move done, but look at Pierre-Francois Palis trying to hold off a challenge from Lutz, and look at Gedvalus slipping a wheel down the inside heading into turn number 2. He's now going to be taking that outside sweeping lane around turn number 3 and gets that move done to slip his way up into 7th, and maybe going to get a move done on Pierre-Francois Palis to move up into 6th. Very close heading up the hill into turn number 7. These drivers feeling really racy. They've been aggressive all season long, Adam, and even in the final 25-minute race of this season, these drivers are not letting that aggression die down. They're still racier than ever before.
Well, it was pretty calm for the last couple of weeks, and so of course we were going to see something on championship night or afternoon, wherever you are located at. And let's head out to the battle for the race lead. Still less than a second separating the race leaders of Kevin Zemstra and Nicholas Ravnussen. Nicholas Ravnussen currently is in a championship battle. He has to finish first in this race to even have a shot at a championship in the feature. So this is going to get very interesting. Here they barrel down into turn 1. The gap slowly growing by just a tenth, it seems like, but Nicholas Ravnussen, he is pushing hard as we go on board here through turn number 2 and into turn 3. Again, this high banking circuit with turn 3 and turn 14, you got to use that banking to your advantage. It's a lot like oval racing, and you don't go down to the inside. You're going to lose a bunch of time going down. You can see the drivers here taking a higher line to keep their foot in the pedal and keep their momentum going. Now it's still very close between those two. Nicholas Ravnussen trying to pick up the pace a little bit. He was slightly slower in sector 1, but now here they come into sector 2 here, and this is going to get very interesting, I think, Ron. Of course, Leonard Schneibel, he has not moved up any positions, but right now he is sitting in a spot to win the championship. If he finishes 3rd, that's the 58 points for Leonard Schneibel. All he has to do is finish in 1st or 2nd in the next race, and he will be the champion here at the ARA Super Formula Lights on Apex Racing TV. And now Leonard Schneibel, he is really pushing the issue here and trying to get the job done. Now let's go to Gedvalus real quick, as he has closed the gap now to 2/10 to Pierre-Francois Palis. And you can see that draft is going to be very effective as they come off at turn 14 now. He's going to make up another spot here. He's already made up 3. And right now, he is in championship contention for the AM Championship due to Mark Swan not being here and Yuri Grigorenko being involved in the earlier incident on the opening lap. Ron, we are just 6 minutes in, and now the storylines are starting to really blossom here, and it's going to be tough for us, I think, to keep track of what's exactly happening out there.
I feel like it's been tough for us to keep track of the things that have been going on out there on the racetrack all season long. There's been so many twists and turns throughout this season that's really gotten to the point where it's really hard to try and keep track of everything, and we're still expecting some more twists and turns between now and the end of this race, where we could see the crowning of a new driver's champion and a team championship as well. You mentioned how Schneibel, in the position that he's in right now, currently running in 3rd, that is a fantastic position for him to find himself in. Despite the fact he's 2.2 seconds off of the leader of Kevin Zwemstra, he doesn't really need to win this race. He just needs to see the checkered flag, needs to keep it out of the barriers, and considering that Tobias Olsen got flipped upside down, he's out of the session. He is not joining back. He has no hope of the championship. It's a 3-horse race, but also George Sazonov, he's moved his way up into 9th. He really needs to hope for a miracle between now and the end of this race, but hey, we've seen some strange things this season. I've seen stranger things happen in an Apex Racing Academy series, so for all we know, we could see George Sazonov sneak away from this race with a podium. You just never know in these series. And also when it comes to that team championship, despite the fact that the leader of this race is an ice cold racing car, you've got this man Nicholas Rasmussen for Alcantech NHR by Brain Crow AI. He and his teammate of Schneibel running P2 and P3, that would pretty much be enough for them to seal the deal in the championship with the Duderev Motorsports team. The only one that had a really good shot outside of Alcantech NHR leading the championship. They're the only ones that are going to contend with them, and currently Tokboletov is a high highest running of those cars, running 4th at the moment, 4th overall and 4th of the AM drivers. Then you have to go back to Sazonov and Grigorenko in P9 and P10 to see the remaining Dodorev Motorsports cars in this field. But as this race is developing, we've seen some mistakes actually happen, as Silas Craig Vologic actually had an off track not terribly long ago. He's rejoined the race, albeit a minute and 3 seconds back of Yuri Grigorenko in P10. So I think there may have been some sort of moment for the Dane that took him out of contention in this race. And here's a replay, Adam.
Yeah, here we go. Let's take a look at what happened. Gets a little bit over the curb and onto the grass. I'm surprised he was able to maintain the grip levels, especially through that section. Then he goes off track again. Again, you don't want to touch the grass, especially on a circuit like this. And so, but he's lost a lot of time. He was involved, I think, earlier in that earlier incident, which put him even further back. So, and let's take a look at another replay here of Yuri Grigorenko. And Yuri going into the chicane. Let's see. No, yep, the chicane just hit the curb and lost the rear tires and went for a spin. That's probably one of the harder corners to really master on Zandvoort, because you can take it very, very quickly, but it is a very narrow window on the entry of the chicane. So good to see him still out on track. He's now 4.6 seconds away from George Snasnoff. Back to our championship leader, though, Leonard Schneibel, again, has not made up any position. So finishing third gets you 58 points. So remember that for the next race. And don't forget that we do invert the top 6. So that's going to put currently Najuz Gedvelez, who is up 4 spots, into the provisional pole currently. Andre Duna, hard charger of the sprint race so far, up 9 spots since the opening lap. Now, Pierre Palouse, currently getting by Gedvelez. Again, that's not really a championship fight right now. As it stands, Najuz Gedvelez, if he finishes this race where he's at, it's going to be a tough task for Yuri Grigorenko to make up the spots, so, and claim a championship. So, we have just a ton of storylines happening here, and let's go ahead. We are hearing about an incident involving Najuz Gedvelez, and let's see what has happened to him. I heard it was an off track, and again going into the chicane. Oh, he just didn't get slowed down. Oh, that's unfortunate. That is one of those more unfortunate incidences. He just came in so hot, Ron, and it's hard to control the car when you're going down something that has kind of a weird undulation in the chicane.
Oh yeah, that chicane is super difficult. The braking zone tricky enough. You're going downhill and just sending it with a hope and a prayer heading into that corner. Many drivers have been called out by it, and I actually took a look to see exactly what happened to this driver of Celeste, Craig Verlogic, that sent him down pit lane and put him a lap down in this race. It was actually a mistake in that very same corner, similar to the moment that we just saw Gedvelez have not terribly long ago. You actually see the dueling off-track marks of both Craig Verlogic, who went off before, hit that wall, and had to tow back to pit lane with some rear suspension damage, and what happened to Gedvelez, that cost him the lead in the AM category. He's now running in third, with Andre Duna now running at the front of the AM class, 5th overall. Some pretty impressive results for a lot of these drivers, and now side by side, this is Verlogic trying to unlap himself from Gedvelez. These two drivers going to be side by side and making contact heading through turn number 1. That was unnecessary, gentlemen. That was simply not needed.
Oh no, and who was that involved with him? That is Najuz Gedvelez. Oh, his day, he's going to have a rough day, but if he keeps it going on track, he will be a champion here at Apex Racing Academy. And of course, we just saw Craig Vologic pull over to the side, so some more damage for him. Let's take a look one more time at this and see what has happened there. Oh, that was Gedvelez is going too hot into the chicane. We'll take another look at the incident, hopefully here in just a moment. But we'll just do a summary real quick. Kevin Zemstra leading from Nicholas Rasmussen, 1.6 seconds. Leonard Schneibel in third. Now here's the replay of Najuz Gedvelez in the turn 1. He's in that purple and white car. Verlogic currently in that black car. Yep, just I'm not sure what happened there. I'm a little dumbfounded. I'm not gonna lie, because they just both went into the corner fine. I think maybe Gedles maybe came down a little bit too hard and thought he wasn't there. It was hard to tell from that angle. Let's take another look from the helicopter cam. And here they go into turn one. Gedles. A racing incident just appears to me. Just seemed like two people competing for the same spot of asphalt. And obviously that did not work out for either driver. Craig Verlogic currently now in the pits. Back out to our race leader, who's put up a best lap time of a 124.004, and Nicholas Rasmussen has put up a 124.1. Kevin Zemstra, I would say, has been kind of the lone member of this Ice Cold Racing team that's been able to stay out of trouble and hasn't been able to have the results that he probably has wanted all season, and same along with Ice Cold Racing. So, and right now he is the lone driver of the Ice Cold Racing team. Of course, there's a second team that has Thomas Hedlund, who is out of this race. There's Leonard Schneibel. He's starting to gain on his teammate here. He's put up a 123.9, and I'm guessing that was with a very healthy draft from his teammate of Nicholas Rasmussen as they go through turn 3 now. And this is going to be an interesting thing. If you're Nicholas Rasmussen, you know you have a shot at this championship, but you're battling your teammate. This is where it gets interesting. Does Nicholas Rasmussen battle with his teammate all the way, or does he give his teammate the spot in order to go chase down Kevin Zemstra?
Yeah, that's $1 million question there, Adam. And I think from my perspective, it's really hard for both of these drivers. Schneibel maybe wants to play the team role. We've heard the interviews from both of these drivers all throughout the season. They have a tremendous amount of respect for each other. They have been the dynamic duo so far this season, while the Ice Cold Racing duos have crashed into each other in the past. These two have been that dynamic duo that Alcantech NHR has used throughout this season to not only be in the spot they are with both of their drivers contending for a championship at the end of the season, but also for them to probably win and seal the deal in the team championship with the finish of this first race of the evening. But I have the feeling that there may be some orders coming through in the not too distant future. At least that would be the way that I see it. Rasmussen at this point, he is a fast driver, do not get me wrong. He wouldn't be in the position whereby he was contending for a championship if that wasn't the case. Entered the last round of Motegi with the championship lead, mind you. But just based off what I've seen so far in this race, Rasmussen, what he needs to do at this point is win. Does he have winning speed, though? I just don't see it, personally. A few laps ago, he was 0.2 of a second slower than both Kevin Zwemstra in the lead and his teammate Leonard Schneibel right behind. The last thing that this team wants is their two drivers to crash into each other, because as bad of an afternoon that Dodorev Motorsports is having and as big of a gap that Alcantech NHR had coming into this race, I don't think they want to have their two drivers come to blows in the final race of the season and not only cost them the chance of a driver's championship, but cost them the big chance of a team's championship as well. So, I don't know, maybe my perspective's just a little bit warped at him, but if I were in charge of Alcantech NHR, I would maybe pull off a driver swap in the not too distant future, just because I don't think Nicholas Rasmussen has the pace to contend with Kevin Zwemstra. I just don't think there's enough going on there.
No, there is not. How did we get here? Well, Nicholas Rasmussen started on the pole, but a good start by Kevin Zemstra got him into the race lead into turn number 1. Nicholas Rasmussen has not been able to make up the pace here as we are looking at best lap times here. 123.947 for Kevin Zemstra. Looking at sector times here, so far it's been Nicholas Rasmussen who's been really fast in the second sector. That's the really tight technical portion from turn 7 all the way to turn 11. But he hasn't had the pace in the faster parts of the circuit. So in sector 1, which is start finish all the way to turn 6, he's put up a 29.5 was his last sector time there. His best sector time so far in sector 1 was a 29.5. So 5.47. So he is quick in sector 1 and not as quick in sector 2, but sector 3 is where he really turns it on. A 25 flat through Sector 3 is his best, and I think that's even getting better as the race goes on here. So we're seeing the sector times really starting to form up here, and it doesn't matter if you're good in the second sector on the course like this. Yes, you can be quick, you can have a couple of tenths in your hand, but if you don't have the time down the faster parts of the circuit, especially on the long front straight here, it's going to be very difficult to really catch up to the 125 car of Kevin Zemstra. Leonard Schneibel, he is also looking very pacey here. He was in the 123s. He's been putting up 124s in the last couple of laps, but his best lap is a 123.954. And right now, he's content with this. He is absolutely content with how this race is going for him, as he is currently still in the lead of the championship. No matter where he finishes or how this race ends up, if he finishes third, he just has to go into the next race and he just has to be in the top 5. If he finishes out the top 5 and George Snasnoff has a good race, well, then we might have to sit here and do some calculations from our public school math, and hopefully that goes well. But I want to point out something. Najuz Gedvalis has now lost another position. He is now behind George Snasnoff, and this is for the AM championship here. And for Najuz Gedvalis, he has a big opportunity to win a championship here. He just needs to finish strong. And guess who's behind him? Yuri Grigorenko. Even though it's a 44-second gap, it's going to be quite the interesting second race coming up here, as both Gedvalis and Grigorenko, they'll finish third and fourth in the AM championship point standings after this race is over. So, Ron, we are now just almost 5 minutes away from the checkered flag, and things have really shaped up here. What are we predicting here as we go into the final few laps?
Well, to tell you what, Adam, predicting the unpredictable is very hard to do. I think there are some baseline predictions that I am going to make. Kevin Zwemstra, at this point, he's put on a dominating performance thus far in this race. Won't be too shocked if he crosses a start-finish line in about 5 minutes' time to take the second-to-last checkered flag of this season. I'm also thinking that Gedvalis and Grigorenko may start to battle, because I'm curious, Josh, if we can maybe ride on board just a teeny tiny bit with Najuz Gedvalis, because he was involved in that incident with Celeste Craig Verlogic not terribly long ago. And I'm curious if there's any sort of damage on that race car, because, I mean, he did hit the wall and, of course, had some pretty significant car-to-car contact as a result of that incident. And just taking a look at him, that is heading through the very long and challenging right-hand corner of turn number 7, now through 8 right now. Looks like the steering is pretty straight on that race car of Gedvalis. However, he's lost out on a decent amount of time thus far. Last time by a 125.300. That is about a full second off his best lap in this race as he runs wide coming out the hairpin of turn 10. I'm curious at this point, Adam, if he makes another mistake, we could see a battle between Gedvalis and Grigorenko, as Rasmussen and Schneibel now starting to battle. I think if you're Alcantech NHR, you're not very comfortable seeing your two drivers go side by side. We may see a call come soon in the not too distant future between these two, but they're going to be side by side heading their way into turn number 7, with Schneibel trying to win a championship on that outside line. These drivers very close to making contact, but Rasmussen going to hold it off. This, at this point, even though it's a battle between teammates, this is Rasmussen's championship on the line. Once Leonard Schneibel goes by, it's pretty much game, set, match for him. He needs to win this race, that being Rasmussen. He needs to win this race, and it's just not materializing for him. 4.2 seconds back of the leader, Zwemstra, as Zwemstra at this point extending that gap so much as these two drivers have begun battling. They're very close heading into the chicane at the end of this lap, but we have a lot of battles to keep our eyes on. This Rasmussen-Schneibel fight is one of them. Gedvalis dropping back, falling slowly into the crutches of Yuri Grigorenko. Those two are battling not just for P8 in this race overall, not just for the final podium spot in the AM category, they're battling for the AM championship as well, so we may see some tensions start to boil over in that fight. Well, it's not terribly long left to go in this race, Adam. I genuinely don't know what to expect. For all we know, we could see these two cars of Schneibel and Rasmussen crash into each other. We've seen stranger things this season.
Well, you saw Leonard Schneibel's top speed before he had to break into turn 1, 250 kilometers per hour. So he was absolutely cooking there and trying to get by his teammate of Nicholas Rasmussen. So as it stands right now, you have Leonard Schneibel, who's sitting third. Third place will have a total of 58 points given. And that would put Leonard Schneibel at 865 points after this race. If Nicholas Rasmussen finishes where he is at, he's currently on 790, and second place gives you 63 points, so he would be on 853 points. So just to tell, so you know, that's a very small gap. That's only 12 points headed into the final race here between those two. Of course, George Snaznoff, he is in the conversation, but right now he is currently going to not have a chance at the championship going into the final race. This is going to get very interesting. Here they come drafting down the front straight. Leonard Schneibel just staying behind his teammate. Again, if Leonard Schneibel finishes third in both races, the championship is his. I'm confirming that real quick. No, it won't be. It won't be his. It depends on, depends on where Nicholas Rasmussen finishes in the next race, in the feature race coming up here. He will start in the 5th spot behind his teammate. And again, lots of storylines. You also have to consider the invert. The invert's going to cause a little bit of issues, I would say, for some drivers, especially if you're Nicholas Rasmussen. You don't want to be starting behind your teammate headed into the final championship race here at ARA Super Formula Lights on Apex Racing TV. But a 5-second gap here for Kevin Zemstra. He's checked out of this, and I think that was the white flag last time around, so this will be the checkered flag coming up here. Kevin Zemstra, who is just now headed into turn 14. Very comfortable drive. Good pace here today from the Ice Cold Racing driver of Kevin Zemstra. And yep, there's the checkered flag. Kevin Zemstra, he'll take the checkered flag here and he'll win the sprint race of the final race of the ARA Super Formula Lights Season 1. Nicholas Rasmussen will finish second, and Leonard Schneibel in third. He'll pick up a good haul of points. Again, 865 for him now total. Nicholas Rasmussen now sitting on 853. Pierre-Francois Palouse, a good drive from him in this one. He will finish in the top 5 in the 4th spot. Andre Duna, 5th place. A good run from them. 9 spots gained. And then George Snaznoff, who is now going to be on the pole for this feature race. He finished in 7th, or excuse me, in 6th, so he'll get the glorious pole position here, and he has to win and hope to God that Leonard Schneibel and Nicholas Rasmussen have issues in the feature. So Anton Tokabalota finishes 7th. Najuz Getbel is in 8th, trying to get himself into a championship spot, but that might not even be enough to get by Mark Swan. And Yuri Grigorenko will come home 9th. He'll finish 4th in class. 10th, Jeff Lutz, Fabio Grassetto in 11th. And our non-finishers, Celeste Craig Borlogic and Thomas Hedlund and Tobias Olsen. Tobias Olsen out of the session and out of this championship here. So, okay, we can take a breath here and kind of realign our focus a little bit now. So, if I'm totaling this up right now, Leonard Schneibel is sitting on, again, 865 points. That's a crazy number if you think about it. But Nicholas Rasmussen is now sitting on 853. This is going to get interesting, Ron. As I'm totaling up points here and point totals here. even with George Snazov's 7th place finish, he is not. He is now behind Nicholas Rasmussen in the championship. And as we go into the final race, I want you to make a prediction on who is taking home the title.
Well, honestly, Adam, I think, at least from my perspective, it's fairly cut and dry. I'm going to go with Leonard Schneibel, unless we see the two Alcantech NHR drivers crash into each other, which wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world. We saw some ice-cold racing drivers come to blows earlier on in the season, mainly at the opening race at Sebring. Well, the opening race of the festivities at Sebring, which I think was a third round of the season. So honestly, I'm putting my money on Leonard Schneibel. It's unfortunate that George Sasanoff was not able to contend for the decent results that he was probably trying to eye up. And I will say something about Sasanoff. He ended up finishing P6 in that race, so he's going to grab the reverse grid pole for this 30-minute feature that we have coming up. And we did have our cameras focused on it at the time, but I will say it was, I believe, Anton Tokbalatov and George Sasanoff that actually swapped positions on that final lap of the race, and both of them are Dudarev Motorsports drivers, so I will say that swap-a-roo, there's one term to describe it. The term starts with T and ends with EAM orders. I was looking through lap times. Anton Tokbalatov on the final lap of the race set a 1:58 compared to everyone else setting 1:25. So there's definitely some trickery afoot there between the Dudarev Motorsports drivers. I'm not saying they were team orders, however, I am saying that there were team orders between those two. So that's really what gave George Sasanoff a chance at starting this race from the pole. But as you pointed out, Adam, he is now a long shot, pretty much entirely out of the championship fight. It looks like it's only going to be a two-horse race between Nicholas Rasmussen and Leonard Schneibel. Both how hard those two were battling in that first race, I would not be shocked in the slightest if we saw one of those cars on top of each other between now and the end of this 30-minute race that we have coming up. Whole lot of storylines, but I think on the subject of Rasmussen and Schneibel, I believe that team has also sealed the deal in the championship teams fight as well. So very well played, but the warm-up session has come to a close, and we're gonna get that starting grid for the final race of the Apex Racing Academy Super Formula Light season.
Thank you very much, Ron, and let's take a look at the final lineup of the ARA Super Formula Lights. On the pole, as Ron mentioned earlier, the 165 from Dudarev Motorsports, George Snazov. On his outside, the 210 from Dynamo Esports, Andre Duna. Row 2, Pierre-Francois Palouse in the 392 will start third, and in fourth, the 159, currently leading the championship and needs a good run here tonight, of Leonard Schneibel. Row number 3, Nicholas Rasmussen needs a win here in order to have a chance, and on his outside, Kevin Zemstra in the 125 won the last race here. Anton Tokbalatov, the 155 driver from Dudarev Motorsports, alongside him, Najus Gedbalez, who is in a opportunity window here to win the AM Championship. Yuri Grigorenko and Jeff Lutz line up in row number 5, and we're going green right away. And here we go. George Snazov gets a good start here, and here they go into turn 1. One's around, takes out somebody, and Duna went around and Pierre-Francois Palouse, and that is gonna give George Snazov a little bit of a gap here. But now Leonard Schneibel on the charge as they go through turn 3 now, and as well as who else was involved? Nicholas Rasmussen, he's down 6 spots. Oh no, the championship contender, he is out of the race. Nicholas Rasmussen is out of this race, and George Snazov and Leonard Schneibel are battling up front. Right now, Leonard Schneibel has the championship in his hands.
Exactly what I expected. Heading into turn number 1, these drivers feeling even more pressure than they have all throughout this 8-race season, and we just saw that boil over. Heading into turn number 1, George Sasanoff in the Dudarev Motorsports car leading at Schneibel in P2. Salas Craig Verlogic, I think, got a piece of that. That was an absolutely ridiculous collision. What in the hell happened there between Salas Craig Verlogic and Andre Duna heading through turn number 1? That looked like a maneuver you'd only see on Monday Night Raw from the WWE WWE. That was insane. Heading through turn number 1, and Craig Verlogic with a big snap of oversteer coming out of the Hans Urs chicane. I think we have a whole lot of replays to take a look at as a big spin coming out of the second to last corner. That's Kevin Zwemstra backwards heading around the final corner. He is going to be stopped on the banking and taps it into the inside wall. Zwemstra gonna try and get it back up and rolling. Duna, ooh, be careful here. Tukplatov nearly just came in for the kill on Kevin Zwemstra, but as Duna comes down pit lane, Tukplatov comes in as well, along with Kevin Zwemstra. We only have 8 cars out there left on the racetrack. Rasmussen had to tow as a result of that collision, so that takes Nicholas Rasmussen out of championship contention. He is now 1 lap down. He is done. That is it for Nicholas Rasmussen. Heartbreaker for the Dane.
Well, I did not expect the final race of the ARA Super Formula Lights to end with disaster for Nicholas Rasmussen, who has just been on it all season long, and an absolute disappointment from the Alcantech NHR by Brainco AI driver, and he's going to be kicking himself after this. Last week did not have a great race, just managed to get into the top 5 in the final race, and this week he is out. And let's take a look at the replay of the opening lap here. Again, George Snasawat got off to a great restart. You see Andre Duna on the inside, just locks up the brakes, slides up the track, and collects Pierre-Francois Palouse. Now I'm just trying to figure out what had happened to Nicholas Rasmussen. Let's take a look here. Again, let's see what happened to the championship contender. He tries to avoid contact. He gets spun around, and he continues on. But again, what happened? What has happened to the second place driver here of Nicholas Rasmussen? We'll get a replay up in just a moment, but George Snasawat now leading by just a half a second over Leonard Schneibel. It's not going to do him much good, as Leonard Schneibel still holding on to the championship trophy. Now, Nicholas Rasmussen, he is that red and white car in the middle as they go almost 3 wide. And the Duderov Motorsports driver of Tokabalotov, I want to say, was the driver responsible for that, and it also took out Andre Duna. So, okay, and that's how Nicholas Rasmussen's championship comes to an end. He is now 2 laps down. We'll go on board again. They were almost 3 wide. They were 3 wide going into turn number 2, and 3 do not go into 1. And just like that, Nicholas Rasmussen's day and championship hopes are done. Unfortunate there, Ron. Very unfortunate.
Yeah, very unfortunate, and in my view, entirely unnecessary. Tokplatov, he is going to get slapped in the wrist quite heavily there. I would not be shocked in the slightest if he has a stern talking to after this season has been drawn to a close. I understand a driver can be very upset after a collision, but that was just unnecessary. I have some experience doing some race officiating and some race directing myself. After an incident like that, you'd probably be parked for 2 laps or even just parked for the rest of the race. That was entirely uncalled for, trying to go for a 3-wide maneuver after an accident heading into the second corner of the race. That's just entirely unnecessary from Tokplatov. I'm sorry. It's just that sort of stuff. I mean, it's killed Rasmussen's championship hopes. He's now 1 lap down. He's done. He cannot fight for a championship. There's some strange things that can happen between now and the checkered flag. There's some strange things that we've had happen so far in the first 5.5 minutes in this race. There's nothing strange enough in the world that would be able to bring Rasmussen back into championship contention as a result of that stupid move that Tokplatov. I'm sorry. That's just uncalled for in my view.
A very aggressive move. Again, 3 wide going into turn 2, ended his day. He is back out on track. Again, 1 lap down in the 12th spot. So now for him, it's just about supporting his teammate. And we know that these two have been very supportive of each other all season long. So obviously Nicholas Rasmussen will not be obviously upset at his teammate. His teammate was not even involved in that incident, and his teammate now is going to bring home a championship. It's going to be the double for Alcantech NHR by Brainco AI. And further back, we see Yuri Grigorenko going to battle with Craig Verlogic as they go down into this very difficult turn 5 and 6, and they make it out cleanly. Wow! Got to be careful of the nose there, Verlogic. You don't want to have that back into the rear end of Yuri Grigorenko. And actually, what this has shaped up now, Najuz Gedveles has made up spots here now, and there goes Craig Verlogic. Oh, that's unfortunate. Just loses the rear end. Low grip corner. Can't be taking it super hard, and he puts himself into the tire barrier and ends his day here at ARA Super Formula Lights as we saw him take a tow back to the pits. Yep, just loses the rear end. Probably put the throttle down a little too early. And yep, well, can't be doing that either. So Elias Craig Verlogic currently now dropping back. He was up 5 spots, and now he is going to be probably outside maybe the top 10 if Nicholas Rasmussen can't get by him. Back out to the race for the lead here. George Snasnoff defending from Leonard Schneibel. Leonard Schneibel has been very, very quick all afternoon here at Zandvoort. And you can see he's trying to use that slipstream to his advantage. This is a very hard circuit to pass on. You cannot allow anybody to get alongside you or get the draft down the front straight. That is the best opportunity to pass. It's hard to pass into the chicane, and so you don't really get up to the speeds you need to get by another driver. You can just see as we are looking behind George Snasnoff as how close Leonard Schneibel is. Again, he doesn't have to do anything aggressive now. He can just finish second, and he will be the champion and bring home a team's championship to the Alcantech NHR by Brain Crow AI. I always want to say NHRA for some weird reason whenever I read that team name. So I do apologize if I've said that a couple of times throughout the season. I have to catch myself a couple of times, but Leonard Schneibel really using his car's ability to get close to George Snasnoff. Further back, it looks like Kevin Zemstra, he has not made up any ground. He is 40 seconds back. He started 6th after winning the sprint race earlier. So, Ron, we are kind of in a weird spot in this race where the really true only battle to keep our eyes on track is going to be the race for the lead. They're only a half a second apart as we take a beautiful aerial view of Circuit Zandvoort. Of course, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button here on YouTube. We appreciate everyone who has already hit the notification bell to know when we go live. We have plenty of other series after our ARA Super Formula Light season's over. Still lots of series going on as well. So make sure you continue to watch along throughout the remainder of the summer and into the fall seasons. And Ron, now looking at the battle for the race lead, George Snasnoff, he's doing everything he can do, but it's not going to be enough, unfortunately.
Yeah, I feel like he's only delaying the inevitable. Of course, he's putting up a hard-fought fight, and really, as much as we kind of stamp their claim on the team championship, I don't think it's entirely game, set, match when it comes to Alcantech NHR battling with Dodorev Motorsports for that team championship. And I have to say, I'm with you there, Adam. I look at Alcantech NHR, and I nearly have said NHRA on numerous occasions throughout the season. That's how I got into racing in the first place, so that's my through line through all of that. But Sazonov and Schneibel are probably going to battle here soon. You can see last time by pretty evenly matched pace-wise between the two of them, both in the 124 range, with Schneibel only a little bit quicker with about half a tenth separating those two drivers lap time wise last time by. And look at Juice Gedvelis running in 30. He's actually faster than the both of those drivers, so pretty good stuff from Gedvelis running in 3rd. He is the highest running AM driver, and he would be on track to actually score the victory in the season. My apologies, that's actually, I believe, those were the best laps of the race. Now we look at the last laps, and even then again, Gedvil is actually quicker than Schneibel last time by. Sazonov a little bit quicker than Schneibel in the lead of the race. Grigorenko putting on a pretty good lap time. I believe that's his personal best of the race thus far. Tokpolatov, who I may get a strongly worded message for after what I said about him a couple of minutes ago. He's currently in 8th with a car that I believe he has gotten fixed ever since then. So the iRacing mechanics drinking a whole lot of Red Bull to try and get these cars fixed. And considering the drama that we've seen up and down this field, up and down this season, they have had to down Red Bull after Red Bull to get these race cars fixed. Currently 9 cars left on the lead lap. Sazonov and Schneibel battling for that win. Actually extending that gap a little bit is Sazonov over Schneibel, now about 8, teetering around 9/10 of a second, separating those two drivers. And look at Gedvilis nearly catching up as well. He still has a little bit of a margin to try and close up if he wants to take the lead and maybe even the win in this race. And he also has a fight on his hands in that AM category, because between himself and Yuri Grigorenko running in P4 overall and P2 of the AM drivers, it's a tick over a second about to head their way into turn number 7 on the 9th lap of this race. Haven't even hit the halfway mark, Adam, and we've seen a whole lot of stuff. We've seen some drivers do some WWE maneuvers in Super Formula Lights race cars. We've seen drivers go for just really boneheaded moves. We've seen me say some stuff that may get me into some hot water here on Apex Racing TV. Oh, and we're seeing a spin from Gedvilis from the lead in the AM category. That is going to be huge for that AM championship fight.
And yes, and he's got to get going because the gap is fast, very quickly closing to Jeff Lutz. And you don't want to lose any time. All the points matter between the AM category championship contenders here. And Jeff Lutz currently still 21 seconds behind. Wow, okay. Not sure what quite happened there with Jeff Lutz, if he had also a little bit of an issue as well, because that should have been very, very close. Oh, never mind. We were looking at it wrong. Now we're looking at the intervals. He's now 7.9 seconds to Najus Gedviles. And if another incident like that happens, Gedviles is going to actually potentially, again, it all depends on how the point calculations all turn out, could lose the championship here. And maybe it does go to Mark Swan. It all depends on the final calculation of points, as everything has just kind of just been thrown up in the air. It's kind of like 52, pick them up a little bit, kind of chaotic. Can't find the Joker that you've lost for the 5th time. It's getting out of hand here. Now Schneibel, he is now 1 second back. Again, he doesn't have to push the issue. He is in the he is currently one hand on the championship trophy, and the second hand will approach here when we get closer to that 30-minute mark. We're only 14 minutes in, and we saw a lot of action on both of the opening laps of the sprint and of this feature race here. And this is where I think for Schneibel, he might as well just back off. You don't need to do anything. Let's take another look at what happened on the opening lap. Again, George Snazov, good start off the line. And Andre Duna, looking from the above shot there, I think he just went in so hot in the turn 1, trying to make up ground, that he didn't realize you can't go that fast into that corner on such a short run. Again, we saw him just really slide the rear tires into turn 1 again. Oh yeah, he didn't even try to make the braking zone there. And that's pretty much what has ruined his day. He just completely kept his foot on the floor, probably realized, oh, I need the brake. Yeah, can't be doing that in the turn 1, or that's the result on the race starts here. So Yuri Grigorenko in 3rd, the only amateur on the podium. And that's kind of been an interesting story. We've seen AM drivers win. We've seen AM drivers on the podium all season long, which really tells you the competition level between the two classes, Ron.
Oh yeah, it has been a competitive season from start to finish, and we're seeing that get put on full display at the moment. Sazonov and Schneibel, I gotta wonder if Sazonov didn't get involved in an incident earlier on this evening with that incident towards the beginning of race 1. I'm curious how things will have been different for him, because he has a very fast race car. Now extending that gap in front of Schneibel to about 1 second. Schneibel, the driver that started the season off with a victory, he ran into some trouble a few races after that, stats, and really ever since leaving the opening round of this season, I don't remember him being in the championship lead after that, well, at least between leaving the first race of the season and entering the final race of the season. But he's just put together a quiet and calm season, and considering the drama, action, excitement, and attrition that we've seen so far this season, Schneibel just putting together a clean night of racing action, and putting together multiple clean nights of racing action is part of the reason why he's in the position that he's in right now, with about 14 minutes left to go on the clock on not just this race, not just this round, but this season as well. Schneibel, at this point, I wouldn't say he's cruising, but I don't think he's really focused on trying to snag the win. Sasanoff a little bit farther up the road, about 8/10 in front to be a bit more precise. He's not really in the championship fight, didn't have the result in that first race that he needed to try and steal the deal from Schneibel. At this point in time, the German probably feeling very confident in how things are looking out for him, and he has a pretty decent gap between himself and Yuri Grigorenko in P3, who's going to create an interesting conclusion to the AM Championship as well, because coming into this round, considering that Mark Swan, who had it sealed, did not show up for whatever reason, it was going to be a Grigorenko and Gedvalis fight for that AM Championship. Gedvalis had the victory in the first race, he had the upper hand, but now in the second one, Grigorenko running in third, right in front, only one spot in front of Gedvalis. I'm not sure how things would shake out when it comes to the championship fight, Adam, but this is actually, I gotta imagine, it is going to be tight in that AM Championship, and sadly, I don't believe we'd be able to get the official championship results before the end of this broadcast. But Grigorenko and Gedvalis giving us a very exciting fight, as Pro looks fairly set in stone.
Pro is set in stone as we see Andre Duna trying to defend from Pierre-Francois Pelouse for the 6th spot. Had to make a little bit of a move. It was a pass. Thank you very much. And Andre Duna is still down 4 spots. He's actually been one of the hard chargers of the season. He has gained so many spots, some of it based out of luck, but also on track. He's been able to average around 6-7 spots. Gained throughout pretty much every race of this season. Now Pierre-Francois Pelouse getting passed by Anton Tokabalotov, who is now back where he started in 7th. He was also involved in that incident on the opening lap. And let's take a look at the replay of what has gone on here. So this was a dive into turn 3 and makes the move almost happen, but a good run around the outside by Pierre-Francois Pelouse to defend from the Duderhoff Motorsports driver of Anton Tokabalotov. But a good run. I mean, look at the speed. I think Pierre-Francois Pelouse may have some aero damage, which is preventing him from moving up any further, and it's just going backwards. But the Duderhoff Motorsports driver, he'll be happy with that, even though it's not quite the day that they were hoping for. Right now, especially in the teams category, Alcantech NHR by Brain Crow AI, your championship teams championship winners so far. So we can mark that one off so far. We just need to have a drivers championship here, which comes in the next 10.5 minutes. So we got 10.5 minutes to go here at Zandvoort, the final race here at the ARA Super Formula Light season number 1. And George Snasnoff of Duderev Motorsports, he's done everything he can possibly do. The only way he can get into a championship contention is basically Leonard Schneibel DNFing. That would be the only possible way of a potential championship. Again, everything kind of got thrown out the window due to the 2 incidences that we have saw here tonight that has taken out 2 title contenders. That's the crazy part. 2 incidences have taken out not only George Snasnoff, but it also took out Nicholas Ravnussen, who was within a shot of a championship here tonight. And Ron, for Nicholas Ravnussen, he's going to have to probably go back to the drawing board a little bit and figure out kind of just what went wrong, especially in the early part of the season. But to come down to the final race and to be taken out is just disappointing.
Oh, it absolutely is disappointing, but I feel like Nicholas Rasmussen doesn't really have much to hang his head low from, at least when it comes to this race meeting. Of course, race 1, it would have been better if he had a bit more pace and was able to get that move done on Kevin Swemstra to take the win. Race 2, meanwhile, he just got... He got screwed. I mean, that's not really broadcaster terminology, but he got screwed. I'm still not over that move that Tokbalatov put on heading into turn number 2. That was just outrageously dumb, and it took Rasmussen out of a space to try and contend for that championship. I think if Rasmussen is going to do any sort of reflecting on the season he's had, he really needs to only look 1 week back to Motegi, because he was in a good position at Motegi 1 week ago and spun out of a good position that probably would have put him in a much better position coming into this race. Of course, if things went the same, he probably would not have been able to seal the deal when it comes to that championship, but would have been much closer than it is, and he probably would have been under less pressure coming into this race. So Rasmussen, if he's going to do any sort of reflecting on the way his season's gone, there's only 2 main outliers, I would have to say. Motegi last time out when he spun out of a very good position, and then probably all the way back to Sebring when he and his teammate Leonard Schneibel got a piece of the drama that happened involving Tobias Olsen and I believe Lee Aberdeen, who was driving in this series for Ice Cold Racing earlier on in the season. Outside those 2 races, I'm not really sure what else Nicholas Rasmussen could have done. He scored some victories, he kept it clean, and that's really the pervasive school of belief behind both of those Alcantech NHR drivers. They have just been able to keep it clean. And considering the drama that we've seen thus far this season, just being able to keep it clean puts you in a good position. But Rasmussen, those couple of mistakes in Motegi 1 week ago have put him in this spot where he's going to come up second fiddle, we believe, to Leonard Schneibel in the championship, as Schneibel looks like he's going to come up second fiddle in this race. Meanwhile, Jeff Lutz has had a moment. He was running third, actually my apologies, he was running fourth in the AM category. He's now dropped down to 8th overall. So I'm not sure what just happened to Jeff Lutz. May have been a mistake. Hang through turn number 10. Gotta find the replay to see exactly what happened to the driver of the privateer entry. A very striking livery that has hit the racetrack so far this season. One of the more eye-catching paint schemes, and it was just a simple spin. Hang through turn number 10. Credit where credit's due to Lutz, getting out of the way of the competitors around him so he didn't get T-boned as a result of that spin. This season has been jam-packed with storylines, and now we've got a fight between Swemstra and Tokbalatov side by side now, heading through turn number 1, about to head into turn number 2 with Tokbalatov on that inside line. Tokbalatov going to back out of it. Will he try and go for a move heading into 3? We saw he tried to go for a move on Celeste Craig Vologic. Actually, no, I believe it was Paulus he went for the move on not terribly long ago into turn number 3, but just wasn't close enough to even consider it this time by. But these two battling for P3 in the M category, P3 in the Pro category, my apologies, and P6 overall. They're quite a long ways back of the race leader of Sassanov, but these two still battling hard because Ice Cold Racing and Dudarev Motorsports battling for P2 in that team's championship. We believe it's pretty set in stone for Dudarev Motorsports to finish second behind Alcantech NHR, but the lone Ice Cold Racing driver left in this race of Kevin Swemstra, he's still not going to go down without a fight.
Well, it's going to be very interesting as we approach now almost 5 minutes to go. Lap times looking in the 120s, so roughly around 3 to 4 laps here to go on the final race of the ARA Super Formula Lights Series. Again, Season 1 of this championship. Season 2 will most likely be announced on a later date, so keep an eye out on social media and on the Apex Racing website. That's apexracingleague.com and you can see go there and see all the different leagues that are running here at Apex Racing Academy. So a couple of things to keep an eye on. Now, I want to mention this. Leonard Schneibel has 3 race wins on the year. Obviously, he doesn't look like he's going to win this one. So, and this will become his second place for him in his first championship here. Nicholas Rasmussen only won 1 race on the year, and the fact that he was within a shot of a championship is considerable. We saw Tobias Olsen. He was on the podium on the first race and won the second and third race, but then was really quiet after that. Finished second last week at Motegi. George Snaznoff, only one win as well, but has 3 third-place finishes here at ARA Super Formula Light. So those are your different race winners. It's been Leonard Schneibel, George Snaznoff, Nicholas Ravison, and Tobias Olsen, who coming into tonight were our championship contenders. And now we are just down to 1, and that's Leonard Schneibel. He just has to bring it home and not wreck, not DNF, nothing. If he just brings it home, he will have a trophy to add to his closet, as we are now less than 4 minutes away from the checkered flag here at Circuit Zandvoort. It's been a good race. After the incidences, we've seen Leonard Schneibel close the gap slowly, but hasn't been able to make any progress. And currently, George Snaznoff looking for his 2nd win of the year. An unfortunate first race for him, as he was taken out on the opening lap in turn 3, and he will be kicking himself for that one, even though it really wasn't his fault. Whenever you're in a championship position and you don't take every opportunity possible, it does not feel good at all. So he will be disappointed. He'll be ecstatic about winning this race, but once he finds out that he will not be a champion, that's going to be an absolute disappointment for the Russian driver, who has had a fantastic season again. He had he retired in the first race of the year. 2nd round, he was on the podium. 3rd round was outside of the podium spots, but won round 4, and then round 5 again outside of the top 5, but has had consistent 3rd place finishes in the last 2 weeks here, and he is going to cap it off with a potential win here today at Zandvoort. 27 and a half minutes into this one, approaching 28 minutes, which should be our penultimate lap here at Zandvoort. And of course, again, we're seeing some of the gaps here. 1 second gap between Snaznoff and Leonard Schneibel. Yuri Grigorenko, comfortable 3rd place right now, as he's got an over a 10-second gap between him and Gedveles. Grigorenko, though, will not be the AM champion. That will either go to Gedveles or Mark Swan, depending on where Gedveles actually finishes this race. It was only a 53-point gap heading into this race, and Gedveles did not have a great opening race, having a semi-decent feature race, and that's what I think we're gonna have to wait on the points totals to be posted on apexracingleague.com/ARA-super-formula-lights. So that is a look at kind of the championship summary here. Gedveles up 4 spots, and so far the hard charger is Yuri Grigorenko, up 6 spots since the drop of the green flag here in this feature race. Ron, we're approaching the final lap here, and it's only a 1 second gap for Snaznoff, so obviously he still can't make a mistake. But for Leonard Schneibel, this should be a very awesome final lap.
It is going to be a victory lap, a German victory lap here in the Netherlands for Schneibel, and it's going to cap off a fantastic season that started 8 weeks ago at the twists and turns of Massano down in Italy. That track, originally designed for motorcycles, hosted the first race of the season. So racing here in the Netherlands, where the first motorsports event of any kind was actually a bike race, well back in the 20s, I believe. The fact that Schneibel is going to cap off this season in convincing fashion is going to speak volumes about the season that Schneibel has put together. He's up 2 spots in this race, but he's going to be in the same spot that he was entering this round, that being the main #1 spot in the championship fight. Schneibel, as I said, kicked this season off in Massano with a win in the A final, back when we had the different format that we haven't had for quite some time in this series, as we have a battle between Lutz and Palouse heading into the chicane for what's going to be the second to last time for them. These drivers battling for P4 in the AM category and P8 overall, nearly making contact heading through the second to last corner, turn number 13. I don't have a good feeling about these drivers going side by side. Lutz and Palouse nearly made contact. They're nearly making contact, hang down the start finish straightaway. This is terrifyingly close for both of these drivers. They've taken the white, so this is only one more lap for those drivers battling very hard. But George Sasnoff is about to take the win in a couple of moments time, but Schneibel is going to be the one taking the championship. Adam, it's been a fun season with you, and I'll let you bring it home.
George Snazua comes out of the high banks of turn number 14. He will get his second win here at the ARA Super Formula Lights. But right behind him, the championship title holder. It's Leonard Schneibel winning the Season 1 ARA Super Formula Lights Championship. Yuri Grigorenko will come home to third. Najus Gedveles will come home in fourth. Again, we'll have to wait on the points tally to be calculated. Andre Duna coming home to the fifth spot, but there's Leonard Schneibel. Grigorenko's doing donuts like he's won the championship. Again, I think he's celebrating a little too early before he's celebrating that. But we have finally a championship winner, and that's going to be the 159, the German driver from Alcantech NHR by Brain Crow AI. It's Leonard Schneibel. That is amazing for him. I know that his teammate has been very, very supportive as his teammate of Nicholas Rasmussen pulls up alongside to celebrate not only a team's championship, but a driver's championship. And hopefully we get to speak to Leonard, who has been in the interview booth several times this season, and that's going to be an awesome interview. And there's the donuts, everybody. There he goes, celebrating with his teammate. His teammate disappointed, but will be ecstatic for his teammate and very, very happy for him. And of course, the prizes going to the teams here. The prizes are, I got to pull those up, Apex Racing Academy subscriptions, and of course trophies as well. And that is awesome. That is a story to be told, and at the end of the day, he was the one who had to keep it clean. He had to keep his nose out of trouble, and he did all season long. And Leonard Schneibel, that's going to be, I can't wait for this interview, and he's actually waiting already. So we'll bring him in just a moment as he gets to celebrate with his team once again. Second place finish. He'll be disappointed that he didn't get the win run, but I think a championship trophy is going to do just fine for him.
Yeah, I don't think he cares about not winning this race in the slightest, because he may not be the one taking the top step of the podium, but he's the one taking the top step in the championship fight. And I think we're going to have a 3-wide formation for the Alcantech NHR drivers. They have brought it home in the team's championship, and they brought it home in the drivers' championship as well. I believe that's Grosseto joining them. Fabio Grosseto may have been a driver to keep our eyes on when it came to that AM championship fight as well. However, after missing out on a few races and having some bad luck at the green, he was not able to contend when everything was said and done. But Alcantech NHR put on a clinic throughout this season. They were the second fiddle team for a decent chunk of the opening half of this season, as Ice Cold Racing were the ones that seemed to be dominant in this series. Ever since then, they just put on a clinic, and now with some more donuts to celebrate a championship win, Leonard Schneibel burning it down in style and warning those rear tires down to the canvas. But I think after the season that he has put together, he has definitely earned it. It's been a long season for these drivers as well. Started 8 weeks ago at Misano. It's been a season with many twists and turns, ups and downs, and in the end, it was Leonard Schneibel taking that pro Drivers Championship. See some more drivers burning it down. There's Nicholas Rasmussen. I don't think he'll be burning it down after the race that he had, but he's still going to be joining his teammates on that start-finish straightaway. Will we see some burnouts? Yes, we will see some burnouts from Nicholas Rasmussen. Even after the race that he had, he was still burning it down to celebrate with his team. But Adam, I think we have some results to take a look at, and then some very happy drivers to have a chat with as well.
Yeah, let's take a look at the final classification as soon as we get some things working technically. Here. So here we go. George Snazoff, your race winner, his second win on the year. Leonard Schneibel in second. Yuri Grigorenko tried very hard to get into a championship spot, but I don't think it's going to be enough as he finishes in third. And Najus Gedvelis, I think he does claim the championship in the AM category with that fourth place finish. Andre Duna in fifth. Kevin Zemstra in sixth. Anton took a below top after causing the massive crash that took out championship contender Nicholas Ravnuson, finishes in seventh. Pierre Francois Palouse in eighth. Jeff Lutz ninth. 10th will go to Nicholas Ravnuson. 11th will be Fabio Grosseto. So lost Craig Prologic, currently 12th. And Tobias Olsen, Thomas Hedlund did not make the call in the feature, and they finished 13th and 14th. Well, Ron, I think we're going to get our interviews in here in just a moment, and I think we're going to start off with our race winner, I think, George Snazoff. I think he deserves a little bit to come in to be first for the interview. We'll have our championship interview in just a moment, so let's bring in George Snazoff. George, can you hear us?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. George, you won here tonight. Unfortunately, was taken out in the first race and really kind of sealed the deal in the championship. But just talk about your race here tonight at the ARA Super Formula Lights.
Yeah, good evening, guys. It was cool. Second race was beautiful. Dance race with Renner behind me, pushing 100% all 22 laps. It was hard, but I enjoyed the win. And the first lap of the first race, I don't know, it's like a rookie mistake for me. Cold tires, banking. I had all weekend. I had problems with this corner, and just shame for me.
Well, you were there pretty much at coming into this final race. You had to put on a performance. Unfortunately, just didn't go your way. Talk about your team, Duderef Motorsports, also being in contention for a team's championship here tonight.
Yeah, Yuri did a great job. Anton did a great job. He was not lucky in quali, but his pace was good in the first race. I mean, we seconded the team championship, I believe. And yeah, congrats to the guys for the first place. They were fast all season.
Did you feel the pressure from Leonard at all in that second race?
Yeah, for sure. I was waiting all laps.
Well, congratulations. You get your second race win on the year. And of course, season 2 coming up here. Can we expect maybe you to make a charge at the championship for season 2?
Yeah, for sure. We will as a team.
All right.
Yeah, thank you guys for your work all the season.
Yeah, congratulations on your win. Anybody you would like to thank for the season?
You guys for your work, all admins, all participants. I hope we will have a lot of more in the season 2. Let's have fun.
All right. Well, thank you, George. You have a good rest of your evening, and we'll hopefully see you for season 2.
And goodbye.
Well, Ron, I guess, who do we talk to? Do we want to talk to Nicholas Ravnuson or Leonard Schneibel?
I think I'll have a chat with Nicholas Rasmussen, who was a driver coming into this race with a chance at the championship. Sadly, didn't get the luck of the green through at this race meeting. Nicholas, thank you for joining us in the commentary booth. I'm not familiar with any Danish beer brands, but I can imagine you may be making a purchase of one of those after how things went for you here at Zandvoort. Tough luck to not come too close in the championship, but a fantastic season all around. Talk us through the final races of the season here at Zandvoort.
I mean, for beer, it's just Tuborg or Carlsberg. But yeah, obviously got pole position here for the race, which was good. Kind of knew that for race 1, Kevin, he was mind-bogglingly fast in practice, so he was just going to be a rocket power mohawk. So when he got past at the beginning of race 1, I just let him go, honestly. And got a solid finish. Race 2 was unlucky, got caught up in a spin up ahead, and then interestingly enough got some interesting contact into turn 3. just gonna leave it at that. But yeah, I mean, overall it's been decent, so not gonna complain too much.
Well, I give you credit where credit's due for not only putting together a fantastic season, but applying some sort of restraint when talking about that incident that rocked the beginning of your second race. I was not very kind when looking at the incident during the race itself, but I give you a lot of credit for biting your tongue when I did not, in reference to the driver that you had that collision with. But still, overall, ending up towards the front of the championship, and of course seeing your teammates lock up the deal and your team win the team championship as well. I just want to ask you about how this season went, how you enjoyed it, and how much it meant to you to be involved in the championship fight, get a good result in the Pro Driver Championship, and also be part of the team that ended up winning it in the team championship.
I mean, obviously, first of all, to Lenny, congratulations. Absolutely fantastic season. I couldn't be more proud of the guy. He's been done so well this season. And obviously for the team championship, we also get it's mega. Myself and my mate Alex started this team quite a few years ago, and it's just such an honor to get both championships. I couldn't be happier with that result. And obviously I made some mistakes along the way, but I think I can take some pride in improving a lot this season and finding the belief that I can actually do it again. So in that sense, it may not be the championship that I personally wanted, but I think I can walk away with my head up high.
Yeah, I would say you can. You put together a very good season, and despite only sneaking away with one victory, being involved in the championship fight is still nothing to scoff at. So Nicholas Rasmussen, well done throughout this season. And now we're not sure what the next Apex Racing Academy series is going to be, or when this Apex Racing Academy Super Formula Light series may return, but is there any other series that you'll be running here that is broadcasted on Apex Racing TV that viewers may be able to see you participate in the not too distant future?
I don't know yet. I don't think I've decided on anything. It'll probably be some Formula cars if I were to jump into it. I don't think I have particular talent in GT cars, so if you guys find a Formula Championship, I might jump in on that one. And obviously would love another Super Formula Light series, but I know the participation hasn't been what's probably been expected, so we'll see what happens. I look forward to the next one, whatever it is though.
We'll just have to wait and see what the future holds. Nicholas Rasmussen, thank you so much for joining us in the commentary booth for one last time here from this season. And for one last time, is there anyone you want to give a thanks to or shout out?
Again, Lenny, congratulations. I couldn't be more proud of you. And you guys in the booth, thank you for covering the season and organizing this whole thing. It's been a blast. And again, hope something similar will be arranged again soon.
Well, fingers crossed. We've already had two major open wheel championships here from the ARA side of things here on Apex Racing TV, so fingers crossed we'll have another one to bring this year to a close. But Nicholas Rasmussen, congratulations on the results throughout this season. Congratulations on ending up towards the north end of the championship fight, and excited to see you wherever it is in the not too distant future. Thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you, guys. You guys take care. You're awesome.
Nicholas Rasmussen, the driver who desperately needed a championship but did not get it here tonight. And ladies and gentlemen, I think we are going to talk to not only the driver who had the most wins on the season, but we're also going to talk to the 2024 ARA Super Formula Light Season 1 champion, Leonard Schneibel. How does it feel, Leonard, to have champion next to your name?
I mean, it's a great feeling. We've been waiting for this moment for so long. I've been with Alcontech for the last 2.5 years now, and we were always close to it, but not quite there yet. And it just feels amazing that it's finally time for me being called a champion, at least from my side. Yeah, it feels great. It's an amazing feeling, and a huge thanks to the whole Alcontech squad who were not letting me go or dropping me for stupid results or really bad weeks. Just a huge thank you to the whole squad, and yeah, it feels amazing.
3 wins, 1 second place finish. All it took for a championship. Talk about tonight and your race throughout Zandvoort here this evening.
I mean, as Nick already stated, we were not putting any risk onto the table. We were just cruising all the way through the first race. That was really unspectacular, because we knew we had the guys who were close to us in the championship. They were behind us, so there was not much going on in that first race. Second race, I got a bit lucky. Could have been caught up in the turn 1 wreck, but luckily I was on the right place at the right time, so we got through. And I just, from there on, I took it easy because I knew Sazonov was not in contention to win the championship if he finished 1 place ahead of me. So I casually dropped back a bit and took it easy like the other 8 races it was. Really unspectacular week for me though.
You say you guys didn't want to take any risk. Was there going to be team orders potentially with you and Nicholas in that first race?
Not really. I mean, I told him I'm not gonna pass him either way, so yeah, it was just cruising to the finish line. Nick was, I think, 19 points behind me in the championship, so then we would have been a bit closer together, but at the end it didn't really matter if Nick wins the championship or I do. It's just that the drivers and the team championship stays at Alcantag. That was the main goal, and we achieved that, so we did a good job there.
Are you planning on joining or participating in any other of the Apex Racing Academy leagues here?
Not yet. I'm thinking about the Sports Car Championship, getting back into GT4 again, but that's still in the stars. So, I mean, if a Formula Championship comes on, then I'll definitely join that one. Doesn't matter which car, except for the F4. Not planning on too much right now. Just enjoying the end of the season now, and get back whenever. Whenever I feel like going back.
Well, you are a Apex Racing Academy champion. Is there anybody you would like to thank before we wrap up interviews here?
Yeah, again, huge shout out to the whole Alcantag team. Huge thank you to Nick, to Alex, to Fabio, to Silo, and just huge thank you to them. Shout out to my parents. I think they're watching right now. And also a huge thank you to you guys for the whole season broadcast. And that was actually it.
All right. Well, thank you, Leonard, for joining us. Congratulations. You are a ARA champion.
Thank you.
Leonard Schneibel, our championship winning driver in the pro class here at Zandvoort. Well, I know we went a little bit over time, but obviously we wanted to give Leonard Schneibel a little bit of time to talk and give him the floor. And Ron, what an season we have had here for season 1 of the ARA Super Formula Lights.
Oh, it has been an absolutely incredible season, Adam. Whether it be the championship fights, whether it be the exciting races, whether it be the funny moments that we've shared before, during, and after broadcast here in the commentary booth, or whether it be some of the frankly ridiculous moments that we've had out there on the racetrack as well, it has been a hoot calling this first ever season of the ARA Super Formula Lights. And as Leonard Schneibel talked about, there's some other Apex Racing action all around the clock here on Apex Racing Racing TV. The ARL Sports Car is coming back in a couple of weeks' time. Gives you more of a reason to subscribe and hit that notification bell as well so you never miss a single thing here on Apex Racing TV. But this season was absolutely fantastic. We had a beautiful selection of racetracks, some drivers really itching, trying to impress us in the commentary booth and their teams as well. It was a very fun season to call with you, Adam. Really happy to be a part of it, and really happy to have our buddy Josh working in the virtual production hauler. And usually I would mention this tomorrow, however, our boy Josh is actually going to get married, so congratulations to our producer Josh Wilkie, going to be Mr. Newlywed Wilkie whenever he comes back here on Apex Racing TV in the not too distant future. But Adam, with that point that I had to bring up and talking about this incredible season that we had, I'll pass it off to you for one final time.
Well, in a season that was like a roller coaster, we have a champion. Leonard Schneibel wins the Pro Championship here. As it stands, it should be Najus Gedvelez taking the AM Championship, and in the Teams Championship, Alcantech NHR by Brain Crow AI. Well, for one last time, for everybody here at Apex Racing TV, for Ron Mons, myself, Adam Thompson, and Josh Wilkie, our producer, we want to thank all of you who have tuned in for the last 8 weeks to follow along with this awesome storyline that we call the ARA Super Formula Lights. For one last time, we will say good night, and we will hope to see you next season here on Apex Racing TV. Good night.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.